Well, welcome. This is Hamilton County Newsmakers, and I'm the host, Perry Williams. And each month we usually have the Westfield Chamber on, and this is no different. The month of December, I have the president, Jack Russell. Welcome, Jack.
Yeah, excited to be here.
Not too much going on over at Westfield, so
No.
I'm sure you don't have anything to talk about. All right, go ahead and get it off your chest here. Go ahead and tell one of the big events of last month, okay?
We are state champions.
That's
and
right.
It feels good.
And walk.
That's
in
right.
Football. State championships in football.
There you go.
And we feel good.
That's
so,
right.
It's having somebody like Coach Gilbert, his vision and passion. Our business community was thrilled. Our schools, you name it. Everybody was just excited.
It kind of brings the community together.
It
doesn't
did. It really did. When I get phone calls, people not worrying about, the hardships sometimes of running a small business and calling me and saying, well, when's the bus leave to go to Lucas Oil?
Do you know what time the bus leaves to Lucas Oil?
Yes. And
that's a good thing, right?
That was great. It was really great. And it was a great time. And just to be down there, I was down there in 2013 when they played Cathedral. Mm-hmm. And it was a tough loss for those kids. And but it was neat to see Coach Gilbert and his passion come back and win a state championship.
Absolutely. Well, Jack, also, since we met last time, Mayor Cook in your chamber luncheon did the state of the business for Westfield, state of the city for Westfield, and made a big announcement. Let's kind of talk a little bit about that announcement and some of the things that obviously it's going to affect business big time.
Oh, absolutely. Well, our State of the City, we had 200 people show up for that event, which is our largest event of this year and our largest State of the City by far. And with that was a $200 million project, including a civic center, YMCA, a conference center, a large hotel. And I think that those things are in the works. I think the land has already been purchased and everything seems to be fine. So it'll be interesting to see as it gets ready to go into the City Council and the Planning Commission if it gets some legs and takes shape. But a conference center with a large hotel, a civic center, I think Mayor Cook's vision for that is to have the chamber and other entities inside the city all together in one building. And I think the $200 million project like this on 31 could be, again, it's so funny because most of the things that we don't do good things. We do grand things for some reason over in Westfield. So we have Grand Park.
That's why you have a Grand Park.
Exactly, Grand Park, Grand Junction Plaza. And so I'll imagine that it probably has a grand name to it. Mm-hmm. But I think that it's a good step in attracting business.
Well, Jack, I think the great thing, too, is it's going to affect the downtown, okay, because it is going to be downtown. But it will also give Westfield some big events for both the east side and west side of 31.
Absolutely.
Okay? Absolutely. And I know that one of the things that Mayor Cook, when I talked to him 3 or 4 years ago before he even started Grand Park, the idea was Grand Junction, that you would have a way to transport out to Grand Park if that's what you wanted to do for all the shopping out there. So it's not going to be a disconnect. I mean, if you want to go to shops out there, and the whole idea and concept is if you stay in a motel at Grand Park or if you stay at a motel downtown Westfield,
right,
you can park your car and never get in your car again and have a great weekend.
Yeah, and that's a big thing with Mayor Cook is walkability. The trail system is a big part of what he does. And when I say Mayor Cook, I mean the city of Westfield. And of course with the new Mill Street extension, so that's now almost done, that includes a trail system. Anything that happens in the city of Westfield, if you're a developer, has to connect in some way, shape, or form to a trail system.
Well, I know it. The one thing about it is once it gets done, especially the Midland Trail, and with you, the Monon Trail. And that was one of the things that Mayor Cook mentioned about the shareholder and the backing of this large motel that's going to be built in Convention Center, is he wanted it there because of the walkability and the trails. I think, 3 or 4 trails will kind of
connect.
intersect
Yep.
right at that.
You'll have 3 of them.
Yeah.
A city one, you have the Monon, and you'll have the Midland.
Yeah.
So it'll be the hub for trail system there in Westfield.
And you think the Monon is now from downtown in Indianapolis, okay, all the way up. It's not quite
It's close
to Sheridan.
Sheridan,
Yeah.
Very
Okay.
cool. And over the next year, you'll see that Noblesville will finish up the Midland Trail.
And I think the city of Westfield has all their land
It's
purchased.
all purchased, and
yeah.
it's all
Yeah,
the
it's in
line
the
is
book.
there.
That's going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean that,
Right.
some of the it's not going to happen, but many of these things, but that's something it's in the books and it's going to happen.
Right. And I think that you look at 2 closest cities that match each other both size-wise and what they're doing, Noblesville and Westfield. We get that a lot from a chamber perspective, and I think that you'll see with that Midland, you'll see a lot more connectivity, both literally and then, of course, figuratively, with Noblesville and Westfield.
Yeah, that's going to be a great asset to both places.
Absolutely.
Because the one thing we got to learn, and as well as I do, and we talk about this all the time, we have to quit worrying about boundaries. Okay,
Yep.
because when industry or big business come in, they really don't care where that Marion County, Hamilton County line is,
Yeah.
or they don't care where the Noblesville ends and Westfield starts, or if there's an area in there. All they want to have is many amenities for their employees that they're bringing in.
Absolutely, and that's what we do at the chamber. That's something that when I got into this role back in May, I know again, like we've talked about, what can we do from a regional standpoint to make a difference? What can we do? How do we interact with Tipton and Tipton County, and what does that do from an economic development standpoint to help us drive business? And of course, I sit on CERTA, which is our Central Indiana Regional Development Authority, and we have to start thinking regionally. Of course, we want to take care of Westfield, we want to take care of Noblesville, we want to take care of each other, but the only way we do that is you look at, from a workforce standpoint, you have to be able to think outside your boundaries from a transportation standpoint, and really from an economic development standpoint, because they're not, those businesses that are coming in, especially big ones, they don't really, they look at your population and say, great, but I'm looking at Hamilton County. I'm looking at how many people can I attract. When Mayor always jokes, he says, the best part about Grant Park is I can help another mayor out. Well, Mayor Brainerd calls and says, hey, thanks for all my hotels being filled. I know that that's a joke, but at the same time, that's regional development.
Yeah.
There's regional development, people going to Kokomo, people going to Noblesville to stay, eat, enjoy the Hamilton County amenities. That's just one of the perks of living in a great county.
And it's even pushed the boundaries. Grand Park has really pushed the boundaries because Mayor Goodnight will tell you the same thing in Kokomo.
Yep, absolutely.
He's thankful for that the motels have not been built in Westfield because and you and I both heard the stories in the summertime in the peak times of motels being booked as far as Lafayette.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, absolutely. And you've seen it even in the smaller towns. You have Sheridan and Cicero. Sheridan and Cicero. Cicero really has pushed themselves to say that they're a food hub, a food capital.
Absolutely.
Trying to be. And when you ask them why is that, they say Grand Park. I mean, Grand Park, we get a lot of visitors from Grand Park. And so they've really made it so that it's a mom and pop unique place to go. 10 West, the Lulos. You just have these interesting, affordable places to eat outside of your comfort zone. And I say that outside of Westfield, Noblesville, wherever you live. You could go point anywhere on the map of Hamilton County, and there's probably good food and good entertainment and a good time. So
yeah, absolutely. Jack, let's talk a little bit about among all these things that we've already talked about that are big happenings. Let's talk a little bit about, you also put together through the Indiana Chamber some questions on a survey.
Yes.
That the state has their focus on what they think's important, but also what's important to Westfield, and you
Right.
took those same questions
Yeah.
and asked them about it. So let's talk a little bit about
Yeah,
that.
so we took the top 8, and I'll tell you what these are. I'm not going to give you the whole long word. I'll tell you just generally what they are. Tax climate. We talk about infrastructure, technology innovation, pre-K programming, testing, so I-STEP testing, workforce development, water quality, and then of course our smoking rate. And we kind of took those. We took along with those 8, and we asked our businesses in Westfield, how would you rank these issues? So what we did was the ranking the issues and the numbers. So the number one issue, at 28% voted that the number one issue in Westfield is taxes and tax climate. And we heard that a little bit with Coffee with the Chamber from
Absolutely.
the federal government. I think Indiana is a place to do business because of that tax climate. I think they do a great job of lowering that tax climate. It's then, as Susan Brooks said at our Coffee with the Chamber, she said, we need to look from the federal side, and how do we lower our corporate tax code, and how do we get it so that we can help businesses grow? And that was clearly a top one of those issues.
Let me interject something here,
Yeah.
too. Not only did you do this survey,
Yeah.
okay, you got the results of the survey, you tallied them up, and then you put them out to your members, okay?
Yes, yeah.
But then you went a step further and brought our representative Susan Brooks on the national level in, okay,
Yeah.
and you brought Kevin Brenniger in, and you brought
Donna Shire.
Donna Shibley in. So you had the state, you had the chamber, and you had the federal government
Yeah.
to answer questions.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah,
I
no.
wanted to plug that
No,
in.
absolutely.
there.
Our Coffee with the Chamber, we had those, and what we did was with our chamber, I don't think we do enough from the legislative side. I think a lot of our members want that help and some support and a voice, whether it's at the State House or whether it's out in D.C. And I don't have a budget to fly out to D.C., so it's great when you have someone like Susan Brooks that can listen to those businesses. And it was great. And I think when you keep looking down this list, number 2 being infrastructure, we talk about that all the time, especially in the state of Indiana, but of course at the national level, that's another big one. With President-elect Trump wanting to do $1 trillion in infrastructure spending, that's something that we look at, and it's clearly a priority to some of our members. I think we are lucky on our side to have the 31 project, and I think that made a big difference. But I think we can also do more. The number 3 was technology innovation. And with Indiana being a growing tech company, technology innovation ranked number 3 on our list at 23%. The interesting ones over workforce, water, and smoking. The next ones are funded pre-K programs and I-STEP testing. And what we took from that is that we have a young business community that works a lot, trying to get their business off the ground, and having opportunities for their children to have those opportunities to have funded pre-K. And also, with our graduation rate in the county being very high, but especially in Westfield, 98.2%, those are top priorities. Our schools are really at the top. Out of the top 5 of these, they're 2 of the top 5. And I think that really resonates with our business community about how important schools are.
And it was a perfect example. That was perfect timing. Yesterday, the numbers came out from the education department on state rankings of schools, grading them from A through F, okay? And if you look at Westfield and the entire Hamilton County, those scores were A's and B's.
Yep.
I mean, they were very, very high. So, and that's one of the big things that new people going to have children look at is where are we going to be able to raise our kids and stay in one location, and those are the kind of answers they want to hear.
And it's really because the idea, not probably just 10 years ago, was you move somewhere where a job is, and the new way of doing it is you move to where quality of life is, and then you find a job. And that
Right.
seems crazy, but when you especially look at Westfield, you've got great schools, you have a great public safety, you have your great firemen and policemen, you have a trail system, you have the restaurants, you have these things, you have a great quality of life, and now you go to look for a job. And I think that that's an interesting way of doing it nowadays, but I can tell you that that's why I still live in Hamilton County, and that's why a lot of people, especially my age, they say, well, I'm going to go to Boston or San Francisco. Well, now they're all moving back, and it's nice to say I told you so. But it's just one of those things where the quality of life here is so great that's why you're seeing these being top priorities, and you'll start to see that movement from job to quality of life.
Yeah, and I think the one that is really high on the list too is infrastructure, and we'll talk. You talked about 31, but the thing that really helped the increased traffic flow to flow better in Westfield was that roundabout. Okay, because absolutely. With the amount of traffic on 32 in that area, with all the schools letting out, that roundabout has been a huge part of getting on 31 or going back downtown without a big bottleneck. And if anybody's been out Grand Parkway, they've even rerouted some of those roads there to make it better to get in and out of Grand Park and back downtown.
Yeah, and I think again, it's when you think of infrastructure, obviously taxes are taxes. When you think of infrastructure, we go back to that regional thinking. How quickly is it to get to Kokomo and Minneapolis? Great, but now I think our next issue we need to address is our east to west. How do we then improve our east to west? Because again, people are moving somewhere, but they're working somewhere else. If 60,000 or 70,000 cars are leaving on 31 every morning and 50 are coming forward, you're looking at 130,000 or 120,000 cars a day on 31. Well, the same could probably easily be said east to west from Noblesville to Westfield or things like that.
Well, it is. I mean, when you go back today, you watch the traffic and how many people are going both ways. And that's why that, between Noblesville and Westfield, we're seeing a lot of people use 191st.
Yep, 191st. And
so there's going to have to be something done there, which we classify 191st as sort of out in the country, really. Yeah,
right.
I mean,
there's a church there at one of our members, and they jokingly say we're no longer in the country anymore.
Right.
We're on 191st Street.
Yeah, we're no longer that rural church that we built this thing out here to.
Because of the easy, a lot of people east to west getting onto 31 takes no time at all, and you avoid the 32 traffic. Right. So again, I think infrastructure for everybody is. From a regional standpoint, Carmel, Noblesville, if we're just looking at Westfield, Carmel, Noblesville, Sheridan, Cicero, Tipton, I think that those is a big factor for our businesses.
Well, Jack, since this is December, so 2016 is about over, let's talk tell us a little bit about what to expect from Westfield Chamber in 2017, and you've already given us a few hints because of what is Hamilton County as a chamber going to do together?
Right. I can tell you one of the things that we, of course, are not going to end the year without making a big announcement. We always do. So we do have a big announcement on Thursday about kind of our direction of who we are as a chamber, and that'll be our Thursday luncheon at the Bridgewater. But for 2017, it's really understanding what we do well and do it well. One of the things, especially being a budget year, looking at the legislative session and being more proactive than reactive to those bills that are being passed and making sure that we get that information out to our businesses. Another thing is we're going to start looking at how do we, obviously when we think about that legislative branch in a chamber, we think state. Well, the biggest impact I think is as you get closer to the person, and that's city and county government. And I think for us, we're going to start being more proactive at the county level as well, taking a look at projects and taking a look at what they'll be doing and making sure it's good for business. And I think you'll see us, not only us, but I think as a county as a whole, you'll start to see us be more proactive on those issues. As for our events and stuff, we are going to be adding a new member to our team in 2017. We're going to add an events person and make sure we're really doing these things right. We averaged, in the past, in 2015, we averaged 85 people per luncheon. And now we're at 110. So we've significantly increased. Along with that, we've added 75 new members to our chamber since May. So, you have to then all of a sudden start to make sure that your vision and your goals are getting there. and getting back to your members. So I think you're going to see us being a lot more proactive. I think you're going to see us continue to do what we do well, improve our chamber innovation. I know our schools right now are working to get some accreditation through Purdue University, which happened through chamber innovation. We're working to ramp up our connection with citizens in the community through books and business. And then Coffee with the Chamber, I really want to see Coffee with the Chamber in 2017 be that one event that you need to go to in the morning. And I think yesterday's was a good when you have Susan Brooks, Kevin Brendiger, Donna Shively sitting at the table listening to businesses, that's where you get things done. And I think that that's what we'll see in 2017 is pushing forward on what we do well and then just blowing it up.
Yeah, because now, in yesterday's meeting, the take from it was, you've got every branch of government and the people that can make something happen.
Yeah.
I mean, so, with the group that you had yesterday, and kudos to you for coming up with that and tying the survey all together. And of course, Kevin Brendiger, the president of the chamber, fed right to your into your hand when he brought his sheet out with the same questions that was being asked on the state level.
Yes, and I think that's good. I think it's good for us to have. I'm glad that I have the relationships I do with them, but at the same time, it's important for chambers to go to those elected officials and say, not only for citizens, but our job is to take care of business. And if we can go to those elected officials and say, hey, these are our thoughts and we need to be educated on these issues, one, we have some very open and available politicians. For Susan Brooks to be available and say, yes, I want to come to these events. Donna, you've got Tony, Kathy. I think we have some politicians, some legislators that listen. And I think that because we're blessed to have people that listen, then I think then we can get results done. Because a lot of the stuff that I'm bringing up is probably the same issues. If we did the survey in Noblesville, these are probably the same issues. Carmel, Cicero, Sheridan, I'm sure the list is probably the same. And so how do we do that from a regional standpoint to make a difference?
Yeah, and when we can, when you take a look at Hamilton County and you add up that population in this county, it raises that bar big time if you have a voice in at the state house or at the federal government with that many people.
And we think that our voice, we try to we communicate consistently with all the chambers. We're not spending all of our time at One Zone, all of our time in Noblesville, and we're really not spending all of our time in Hamilton County. We're spending a lot of our time listening to what impacts, if Tipton's doing projects, how do those impact northern Hamilton County? If we're doing a project, or Zionsville is, how is that going to affect each other? So I think that we've gotten so much great response from legislators and from the community, business community, because we're not, there are no walls up around Noblesville, as much as I know Mayor Cook wants to put one up down on 96th Street. We don't have any walls in Westfield, and I think that that's what our chamber has done, is how do we impact us as a region, because, again, these issues are the same no matter where you go.
All right. Well, Jack, I appreciate so much. We kind of run out of time here. I appreciate you so much coming in on Hamilton County Newsmakers once a month and telling us what's going on in the Westfield Chamber, and also bringing us up to speed on what's ahead of us here. And it sounds like that our chambers are going to be united in Hamilton County.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. We'll see you.
Yeah, good way to close the show.